webinar session to meet the people behind the African Energy Chamber. We're so pleased to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Samantha, Director of International Engagements. I look after the membership, heavily supported by our wonderful colleagues. You will meet some of them here today. Some of them are still behind the scenes, but in due course, I'm sure you'll get to know them too. So today's session will be all about getting to know you and also introducing ourselves. So there'll be a short introduction section from each of the panelists today, and then there'll be an open question and answer forum, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what's making you tick, what's keeping you up at night, and what's making you feel excited for the African energy sector. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A button. Do not use the chat. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section. If there's any media here today, welcome. We're pleased to see you. Please use the raise hand section to ask your questions so that will be picked up. We'll shortly hand over to each of the panelists. They will briefly introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, and then it's over to you, the audience. Thank you already to all those of you who submitted questions. Okay, I'm so pleased to introduce NJ Ayuk, who is the Executive Chairman and Founder of the African Energy Chamber, amongst many things. Over to you, NJ.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for having us. And thank you, everybody, Leoncio, Elizabeth, Sergio, Verna, and Mandisa, and for everybody that made the time to join us today. I hope you're staying safe out there, and I hope you're being healthy. And these are really difficult, challenging times. So wear your mask and continue to wash your hands, and let's continue to fight this pandemic together. I think we, as the African Energy Chamber, we have seen a big surge in how this industry can really mean a lot for everyday people, Africans, its investors, and those that have traditionally felt left out of the industry. We have really believed that during these times, rather than pack our bags and sit back and wait and wallow in despair and continue complaining, we think we do have an obligation to make things work. We do have an obligation to participate on how Africa is going to come out of this pandemic, how our continent is going to play a deep role. And that starts with you. It's everyday Africans embracing new ways of doing business in Africa, embracing new ways of really dealing with real issues, market discipline, fiscal responsibility, free market capitalism is still the best path to prosperity. We got to embrace markets. We also got to make sure that we have pro-growth policies. It's no longer a European or American or a white idea for us to stand for what makes the market work, for us to stand up for business and be a voice and a force for business. That we give business that opportunity to build and to grow. Africa is going to come out of COVID-19 because we are going to build, and if we support strong businesses, then we get out of COVID-19. We are not going to get out of COVID-19 because governments are able to put a lot of money into new social programs, new spending programs. It's going to be how we get out because of people. Businesses like those in East Africa that Elizabeth represents, that are trying to really take advantage of the new local content projects, even in difficult times, that are being created by Total and other people. Businesses in the SAMAC region that Leoncio works with, that are trying to deal with Forex regulations and trying to deal with new projects that have been postponed and that are going to come back, and how we get our voice to really be part of. Businesses with Angola and Mozambique that are still in spite of all of that. That is really the real strength of where we have to go. But also looking at issues around gas and energy security and other issues coming out from whether it is Nigeria or new projects that are going to come out of Senegal or looking at Mozambique. But it starts with you. that drive really starts with you when you look at us at this chamber. The chamber is not about one person or a few persons. It is a platform for investors, but for Africans to really drive a pro-growth narrative. The idea of capitalism, the idea of growth, the idea of wealth creation, the idea of developing natural resources and making it work can no longer be a European or American or a foreign idea. It is our continent, it's our, we pick on these ideals and learn from the American Renaissance and learn from the Middle Eastern transitions and learn from the Asian new, power and new generations and say, we can also make that work in Africa. And we can also drive market-driven policies to make sure that all of us participate. So I look forward to meeting and talking with you guys and sharing conversations from what's going around the continent, what we think the chamber can be, but also listen and learn from you and see how we can really start a new African generation that speaks to the heart of Africa, that is also going to speak to the heart of oil and gas and make oil and gas work for every African. And that issues like local content or investment are no longer something foreign, but they're as African as Elizabeth's hair, and well, Werner has no hair, but we have to make sure that this is fun. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope you don't have any tough questions for us, so thank you.
Thank you, NJ. That was our executive chairman, everybody. Please keep dropping in the chat section where you're joining us from. I'm handing over now to Leoncio, who's president for CMAC region for the African Energy Chamber, again, amongst many other things. Over to you, Leoncio.
Thank you. I think NJ just said, some key talking points, which is Africa oil and gas is good for Africans, and it has to be that way. And in Malabo, from Equatorial Guinea, from the CMAC region, I'm leading the IEC chamber in this region for the 6 countries: Equatorial Guinea, Congo, Cameroon, Gabon, Chad. And I want to talk about some key aspects that people need to understand when it comes to CMAC region. We are formed by 6 countries, supposedly a free trade area, which is not really a free trade area, and we need to really, push about that. We have 54 million people. It's quite a big market, but still we don't really interact between us. That needs to change. And as for 2019, we had one of the lowest GDP growth in Africa. Our economy depends at 80% on oil and gas, but still, our local companies don't have really the power of the voice in the industry, which is very, I would say, strange. We have 75% of fiscal income in those 6 countries, depending on oil and gas, but still, you don't have local companies really contributing in those fiscal incomes to the state. It means something is not going on. We need to create a business environment that allows local companies to thrive and to be the driving force when it comes to our local, our oil and gas, resources. How do you do that? First of all, we must be open-minded. We need to be welcoming to foreign companies. By doing so, the IAC, the African Chamber, will make sure that foreign companies and African companies come to CMAC, and we will facilitate, or build the bridge between foreign companies and local policy makers. Because it is important that we all together, Africans and our friends from Europe, America, Asia, come to us, and we can build something that can actually be good for African companies. We have been seeing something, when it comes to the CMAC region. Sometimes we talk about local content. Local content is good on paper, but someone needs to really do something about it to act, transform those regulations on paper in changing life on the day-to-day people that we have in this region. So I'm ready here. I'm open to listen from you guys, to ask your questions, to answer your questions, and we will make sure that we can help you in building something that is good for CEMAC and for you guys as business people. Thank you, Samantha.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Leoncio. Over to Sergio, who's our president looking after Angola, again, amongst many other things. Over to you, Sergio.
Thank you, Samantha. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody joining us from all over the globe and from our continent in Africa. Very pleased to be here, and NJ, I echo your words about being safe. So I wish that to everybody. Angola and Nigeria are the two biggest African producers. So we are usually seen as the thermometer for what's happening in the continent in terms of oil and gas projects and what is driving investment, driving exploration, driving development. Now, just to give a little brief background of what's been happening in the last 2.5, 3 years and where the chamber participated and where we are today, to also give a kind of a brief understanding of what we as the chamber stand for and what we have been doing and what we look at doing going ahead. So, we've had a change in government since the end of 2017, and this change in government created a change in the willingness to restructure the industry with the creation of an agency, oil and gas agency. There's an agency for the downstream. The concessionaire function was taken from Sonangol, and the restructuring of the economy of the oil economy started in a way. Now that was going well. The chamber, as many of you know, supported the government with helping to organize the biggest oil and gas conference in Angola's history. We had over 2,000 people there, and over $2-3 billion worth of investments were pledged at that conference. Now, before that, in the last 15, 20 years, say 15 years, Angola's economy was in the top 5 largest growing economies in the world. We were growing at one point at 17%, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Oil at some point was also at 100. We were really driving the regional economy, and we were spearheading Africa's economical growth. Now, a lot of countries in Africa, and a lot of my colleagues here represent some of those areas, were looking at Angola as an example for that. And now most of these countries, like Elizabeth in East Africa, they are starting to have some oil and gas projects coming up, and billions of dollars of investment going their way. So in a way, we bring a little bit of that experience from the Angolan side, but we also bring a bit of the pain from the curse of all that growth. And then suddenly this COVID comes, and we see massive reduction, we see massive cuts, but we have, the 5 major oil and gas companies, the majors in Angola. They're still there, they're still managing their production. We have around 1.3 million barrels of oil still being produced every day. So, in a way, the chamber has been there supporting a drive in investment to the Angola market. We had billions of dollars of projects that were put on hold in the last, let's say 3 years, with all this remodeling and everything from, tank farms to pipeline projects to port restructuring to manufacturing facilities the FPSOs and support systems for the subsea part of the projects. So, you know, Angola is full of opportunities. All those opportunities are still there. The chamber is in Angola to open the eyes to the outside and to the, you know, to the ones already in Angola, to all these opportunities, and being bullish about, you know, what we have, you know. Some of the topics, we can talk about this a little bit later, but some of the topics that started coming up in the last year, it's about regional cooperation, it's about gas monetization, and how Angola can join both East and West to help monetize with the gas, and help also with the development of other industries like agriculture, you know, and the renewable energy sources. So as the chamber, we look at the breadth of all of this. We keep an eye and a good sense of the pulse in terms of the oil and gas, which is our focus. But we also look at other things that are impacted and impact our industry. So that's all for me. We're open to all the questions. This is really about you meeting us and meeting the chamber and understanding what we can do for you, and that we're here for you 24/7, all over the globe and all over the continent. So yeah, Samantha, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sergio. Okay, and now I've got the pleasure of handing over to Werner, who's a Senior Vice President for the African Energy Chamber, amongst many other things. Werner, over to you.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Sergio, NJ, and Leoncio for all what you said. There's really not much for me to add at this stage, rather to say, when I was brought on board for this project more than 3 years ago, one of the key things that stuck out to me was the chamber was being set up to make energy work for Africa. And what that actually means, the way we understand it, is that energy needs to work for Africans, but also for the investors and people who believe in opportunities in Africa. And so we are looking at our partners and our friends across the globe, really, from the US to China. It is important for every other stakeholder to come along and join us to actually really make energy work for Africa. The chamber has a number of focuses, including climate change, which we actually believe needs to be tackled, but very much from a perspective that allows the energy sector in Africa to be sustainable. So we're looking forward to engaging governments. We do engage governments consistently, and we're looking forward to take the industry along so that the changes and the opportunities that evolve and come along with that, particularly when you look at the energy mix, so not only oil and gas, but also using other energy sources to see how this can grow in Africa. We're all about opportunities. We're all about investment. And so please, if at all you have any concerns, if at all you're looking at opportunities, if at all you're looking at data and you don't have the data, but you're looking at data for Africa, please feel free to come to the chamber. We do have quite a number of data sets which we're willing to put to your disposal. Please do join the chamber and let us work together to be able to improve the operating environment for Africa, for energy in Africa. Thank you. I think I'll give it back to Samantha. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And saving the best till last, obviously, I've got the pleasure of introducing Engineering Elizabeth Roger, who's present for East Africa. That's just one of her many hats. Once again, over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, and thank you everyone who's called in, and thank you to my colleagues from the AEC chamber. The East Africa region is the baby of the group, and I'm very glad to be heading this fantastic area. The African Energy Chamber couldn't come at the right time. It has brought such pride to those of us Africans who have entered into this oil and gas field and finally decided to come home. We're able to sit across our Western partners with pride, knowing that we have resources here that they're willing to come and mine and exploit that with people who understand the politics, the local content, who know what is available in this part of the region. East Africa is unique because not only do we have oil and gas, and not only are we nascent, and therefore we can hopefully learn from our brothers in Angola and as well as the CEMAC region, but we have good renewables. We're looking at geothermal. So in this space where oil and gas exploration has really, was minimal, we have started looking at what technology can we bring within the geothermal space. I'm very excited to tell you that finally we are seeing this partnership happening with the big geothermal companies such as KenGen and GDC. It has been a very long fight because most of the time oil and gas people have tended to be extremely snobbish and always felt they were better than our geothermal brothers and sisters. We all know that there's more geothermal resources in the world, much more than oil and gas. So really this is an area that we need to tackle. We not only have the onshore projects, the big ones that I'm sure you've heard of, Lokicha in Kenya, the Tilenga project in Uganda. These are 600 well onshore projects. We have offshore projects. You look at Kenya, we haven't even started doing anything yet. We look at Tanzania, we've got the big LNG prospects coming out. We've got Mozambique. Even though Mozambique doesn't sit under my remit, it's still East Africa where I'm concerned. We have Ethiopia. Where you've also got large geothermal prospects. So there's a lot. There's a lot happening here. And this COVID, as bad as it has been, it has given us that space in which to kind of align our business and then go out to the world and say, we're here, we are now ready for you. We've got exciting local companies that have come up. We've got Beckwith, a local Kenyan company. You've got Lakeford, another local Kenyan company. You've got Savo Oilfield, the only woman-run company in the region. And these companies, as well as other companies that you find in Uganda, is Spectre Africa, which was started by somebody who had no knowledge about oil and gas, but uses entrepreneurial skills to come in and start doing projects with Total. You've got Zimtac in Tanzania. These are Zimbabwean-run, Canadian-run outfit who are coming in and doing a lot of stuff that eventually will go into pipelines, the pipelines in the refined pipelines in Kenya, and hopefully the huge, big East Africa crude oil pipeline. Let me talk about the pipelines. We've got, we'll be having the biggest crude oil pipeline in the world, heated, which will run from Hoima in Uganda to Tanga in Tanzania. You then have the second one, which will be the Kenyan one, which will run from Lokicha up north to Lamu at the coast. And then in between, we have our refined pipelines, which are run by Kenya Pipeline Corporation. So there's a lot of excitement in this part of the region. I remember when I used to work in West Africa, that was in the early 2000s, you mentioned East Africa and everybody would be like, nothing's happening there. But right now, this is a very exciting region. I invite you all to come here. Kenya is a fantastic place. I know NJ can't wait to get here when we open our airports August 1st. Lovely people, led by people such as myself, lots of opportunity. Kenyans in particular, we're very, very entrepreneurial. We're always looking for the next big thing to do. So we are dragging Werner over because Werner, for some reason, loves Uganda very much. I don't know if it's the food or the women. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, there's a lot of opportunities. You have the big companies. You've got the Totals. You've got ENI. You've got Shell that have been in and out. I mean, they're in Tanzania, yes. And you've got other companies coming in. All of a sudden, we're seeing big interest from American companies. You have now the American-Kenya trade that's going on. You have US Exim Bank also finally have woken up and realized there's opportunities in East Africa. But while this is all going on, we need to also look and reach out to our brothers and sisters across the continent. So I'm really excited to see some partnerships that are beginning to happen from Equatorial Guinea to Kenya. And I think we've started now with my brother there in Equatorial Guinea, Leoncio, with his company Apex, as well as Savo, looking to partner and see how we can work together. Savo is has already partnered with the Ugandan company. And so we encourage all these African companies to partner. So when we look at local content doesn't mean we must just partner with Western companies. There's a lot of companies out there with good resource, with people that understand these companies. So Ghana, I've been getting a lot of interest out of Ghana, a lot of interest out of Nigeria. I even took a trip to Ghana to go and see what was going on in Ghana. And I was filled with pride when the local content manager from the Petroleum Commission told me I was the first Kenyan he saw. And of course, being a woman, he wanted to see who is this woman that was leading the way. So there's a lot of opportunities between African companies, between Western, Eastern companies. Our Chinese brothers, come on down, bring your tier 1 type products. Another thing I'd also want to say is technology. I think it's very important as we start looking at these projects to use best-in-class technology. And there are companies out there, those of us who run companies, we are looking for those type of companies. And I've mentioned to you Baker Hughes. We have a whole range of good quality companies that are now working with companies such as Apex, such as myself, and I'm very thrilled for the first time, because it actually has been quite a difficult road. But anyway, all I can say is welcome to East Africa, welcome to the chamber. I urge you to use the chamber. The resources there are immense. And as I said, if there is something you want to find out about different parts of the world, you come to me. I'll put you through to Sergio, to Leoncio, to NJ. We have lots of webinars going on that will give you information. You'll be up to date in this part of the world, as well as Africa as a whole. I think there and say thank you very much again, and we look forward to all your questions. Over to you, Samantha.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, we have touched upon so many different subjects. It's now the best part of this session, your open forum question and answer. I think interestingly, following on from what Elizabeth just rounded off saying about how East Africa isn't actually as advanced as West Africa, we have a question from the audience. I do believe this person is from Senegal, and they are asking, mainly for West Africa, an emerging region which stands far away behind the Eastern region, which initiatives could the Chamber kick off to allow Francophone leaders to embrace the journey of massive power investments to enable manufacturing growth and impact GDP to grow as well? I'm going to ask that question to both Elizabeth and Leoncio, just to have that contrast of East versus West. Elizabeth, you're on mute.
No, I'm saying does Leoncio want to take that question? Because I'm trying to look for the
That's
question.
fine. Leoncio, please, may you go.
Yes, I mean, that is a very important question that the guy just asked. You know, for a country to grow, you know, you need to really build a base industry that can really support the GDP growth. And what we have been lacking in Africa is the power supply. And that's why we have been, you know, advocating at the chamber that the oil and gas is good for Africa. We cannot at this stage believe that we are going to just create companies and grow our GDP without having a reliable supply of power, because you need power to build strong industries. And I think the chamber has been echoing this voice, you know, and this message across the continent that people and our countries will need to invest, you know, in power. That's why, I mean, we have a good example in my country, in Equatorial Guinea. We have many vast gas resources here, but we have been using, you know, the gas to actually produce power in this country. We have the zero flare policy here in my country, which means that we do not flare gas. We use gas to produce power that is now really, powering the oil island of Malabo. The same thing is going on in Bata, where we are now building a CNG and LNG base in Akoga. We are going to be transporting gas from Malabo to Bata to power that region. So the power is key, and I do support my brother, question that African government, we need to invest money in power supply, because without power, we are not going nowhere. It's key.
If I may add, I've just been recently appointed a board member for Kenya Power, and somebody who's always worked on the upstream side of the business. When you finally sit in the only power generating company, Kenya Power, it becomes very sobering when you realize the importance of power. And when we look at power in this part of the world, it's not just hydro, we've got also geothermal. So we need a mix. We've got Garissa Solar, which is one of the largest, I think it's the largest solar in Eastern Africa. You have the Turkana Wind Farm, which is one of the biggest in Africa. So as we're looking at power, I think it's very important for countries such as Senegal, if that's where you were calling from, to look at a mixture of power. You've got now initiatives like gas to power, LNG. So really the power sector is a very, very exciting and very important part of your economy. No power, you can't develop. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for those answers. I'm sorry,
yeah, I just wanted to,
Samantha,
I know I wasn't called to this, but I just want to say, the access to power in Africa and West Africa, it's a big issue. And it's one of the issues that the Chamber wants to tackle head on and shed some light on the real opportunities that exist. For example, in Angola, our power production capacity is immense. We could power, I think I saw a study, we could power almost half of Europe with the hydropower generation that Angola has. The issue is not producing power, is giving access of this power to people. And I think countries in the region should look at statements such as those and look at those as opportunities. We have Namibia with power, sometimes power issues. We have South Africa with the load shedding issues. So, and some other countries in the region that could benefit from Angola's hydropower potential if they were to invest in the distribution side of the business. So a lot of these things, it's about dialogue between our regions and countries, and taking those potential opportunities that are there and just, diverting money to that and investing for the common of everybody. So I think I agree with both Elizabeth and Leonicio. It's a key issue and opportunities are there. And governments will listen. This is what we as the Chamber can say, is governments will listen if the proposals are well done and the proposals are presented in a way that there is a win-win opportunity for everybody. So, but yeah, that's my sort of 2 cents on this point.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for that. I've got a slightly different question building on that once again. What exactly do you expect African governments to make? How do you expect governments to make the environment friendly? What are the possible relationships that we can forge with China? That question is going to go to NJ. I know he's got a long history of doing business and encouraging business and Chinese relationships with African businesses. So over to you, NJ.
Thanks a lot for that. I think we are seeing something of a sea change when it comes into fostering relationship with China and fostering relationships with whether it's anything. And I would not really want to focus on one country or another, but we have to look at what relationships we foster with ourselves. And I think in a forum like this, and what we're looking at, we should look at how do we get, besides the geopolitical issues, we as a chamber want to be focused more about getting Africa to work again. And that's why we come up with our common sense agenda. If we enact our common sense agenda, China will fit into that structure and that Africa paradigm. America would fit into it, Europe, or any other business coming in from that region. Because I want to worry less about what China thinks or what Europe thinks. I'm more worried and more concerned what my brother and sister in South Africa, in Cameroon, in Equatorial Guinea, in Kenya, or Johannesburg, what they think. Because at the end of the day, they live in this beautiful continent. We call it home, some people call it Africa. They really deserve to have the best that this continent has to offer. And if you don't know, I'll just go through very quick what we call our common sense agenda that we have right now. If many of you are out there, if you adopt it and work on it, I think we can put ourselves there. So whether you come from where, you can look at that. What do we look? We look at looking at the industry right now with the oil industry. You say, let's try breaking barriers. Climate change is real, okay? If you want that question, it's real. We don't deny climate change. I think you'd be a fool to deny that climate change is not an issue. But we do believe that as we move in that energy transition, we have to also incorporate gas and find other ways that gas can actually power Africa's tradition. That is so key to what we do. What is common sense? Common sense is we have COVID right now. Look at your taxes. Reduce taxes for African companies and even some international companies that are coming here to make sure that they have cash on hand. These African small business, because the majority of African business are not like Dangote. Small business, they don't go bankrupt, so they can get back to work and they can still be able to provide services to the sector while Africa is recovering, because at the end, African companies have to do that. We've started a job platform, which I think is very important. That jobs platform, you really come with that job platform to say, look at hiring Africans, look at posting jobs in so that Africans can work across the continent. Let's capture the spirit of that Africa Free Trade Act. Let's also look at create opportunities for Africans in diaspora to really drive the continent forward. Look at women in the energy space, drive that issue. If you shut out 50 to 55% of the African population, I don't think that makes sense in our energy space. Our industry has to admit it. I mean, it's self-evident. We have only 2 women it this panel. It needs to be more diverse, it needs to be more equal, and we need to really embrace that and not just talk about it, but actually do it. That's common sense. Look at, for companies, for oil companies in places like Equatorial Guinea, like Kenya, like Angola, Nigeria, look at giving them extensions. You're not going to shut down the airlines. Nobody can fly, but then you're expecting businesses to comply with contractual obligations this year. Extend it so that you don't force yourself into force majeure. But something really big that we also pay a lot of attention on is energy security. Looking at building African energy infrastructure, driving up insecurity. I mean, you're talking about $50 billion going into investments out of Mozambique, but then you got a few gangsters up there in the north trying to create some problems. You got to look at energy security from a real package. Lastly, and I would still say, look at fiscal terms. We're not competing between Angola and Nigeria. We're competing with Guyana and Suriname and all these places. You got to be competitive. It's time for Africa to be competitive again so that we can get everybody there. And do not forget local content. Don't shut it down. Create Africa content where you can, an African company is an African company. So if you're from South Africa, you should not say, oh my God, I need to have this. No, you're an African company, have Africa content. Because right now, if I can't find the skills in Equatorial Guinea, if I can't find the skills in Kenya, I got to go to Europe and I got to go to America. No, you should be local, Africa, then international. So Africans have the chance to do business in Africa and develop Africa and build this. Those are a few things with our common sense agenda, but let's create opportunity for Africans to drive up Africa and really do that. But don't forget the power of the investor, the sanity of contracts, keep that going, competition in the market. So if we do that, your issue of China, I'm not worried about the red dragon. I'm worried about people not being able to have work within the continent and driving that. And if the chamber can address these issues, if we can work on creating more jobs and more opportunities and really drive that, then Leoncio and Elizabeth and Verna and Sergio and so many people that are part of this movement and that part of driving business, then they are succeeding. That is what we need to do. It's just common sense, and we just have to make sense with that.
Excellent, that's exactly right. Building onto this, again, we've got another question coming from Bill Drennan, and it's linked. He wants to know, he's been working in West Africa for very many years. Small companies have got great capabilities, technologies, but financial support is really difficult for them to obtain. His question is there a process to get companies such as his coupled with lenders who want to invest in Africa? So I think this
Samantha, let me jump on this before you get somebody else. By the way, Bill Drennan was my boss, one of the toughest bosses you've ever had. You sit with Bill Drennan, you hear stories from, he was vice president of Exxon, he was vice president there with Hess, he was CEO of Banco when I worked with that great company. He is as tough as you get, but you can't get more compassion from him. What you see is what you get. If he says no, it's a no. He says yes, it's a yes. But he'll always figure out how to fix things. And for Bill to be here joining us, something which you see for someone that who's been the highest echelon of what the oil and gas industry can join. And yes, the biggest issue, Bill, for Africa, whether it is local company or small companies driving technology, is access to finance. I think people like Verna and Leoncio have really dealt a lot of issues with financing. We have to look at that. We have to do more to finance local content initiatives, small company initiatives, so that they can be competing in the market. But at least others will be able to chime in on this. So Samantha, I just want to know who I think, for most who don't know, whether it is in Ghana, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, across Africa, has been one of the towering figures, that has really, really impacted the sector in Africa. And you would not hear about his name, but we love you, Bill, and we thank you for what you've been able to do for this continent. And thank you so much, Mr. Dredden. Go ahead, Samantha.
Okay,
That should be, Bill, we know you have a lot of money, so please go online and sign up with the chamber and pay your dues. So if you don't, next time
I just wanted to say something with respect to access to finance. It's obvious to us that Bill certainly left an impression with NJ, so that's good. But yes, Bill, we are cognizant of the difficulty for a lot of companies to access finance, not only African companies, but even mid-sized European companies that are looking at projects in Africa. One of the things which we advise, not only by matching companies sometimes who are looking for financiers, which we certainly do, and so we advise to join the chamber, use us to be able to tap into the financial networks, into some of the banks with which we work with. But we always advise people to look at traditional methods of finance, quite often you would see, absolutely viable projects, but then due to changes in the banking system style and some of the things that might be going on in the financial world, you might not be able to see some of the financing which you would traditionally see. One of the things, for example, which we saw is COVID. COVID has come. We certainly know COVID is going to go. In as much as there is still a need for oil, there is a need to finance some of the viable projects, which is sometimes there. So rather than going for the traditional bank loan, sometimes, we are to whom they are looking to pretty much use that money to pay. And you would be surprised at all the kinds of opportunities which can come up there, different methods of getting them into equity, getting them into supplying you with some of the services, if at all you pledge some of the oil which is going to come out, if at all you at an advanced stage of the project. So there is a lot of that, and all of these opportunities are things which we certainly support members to be able to access. And so absolutely, we are looking at ways to improving access to finance as part of what we offer. Thank you.
Oh, Werner, one of the things I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents, as I was growing my businesses in Angola, one of the biggest issues for an Angolan small and mid-sized company, meaning in terms of services, provision, is the David and Goliath kind of scenario where you have the multinationals coming in and you are trying to compete as a local company with them. And one of the biggest issues is, whether you're supplying complex equipment or just some simple services like fixing air conditioning, sometimes the business people need to also interact with the banks and help those banks be creative, especially in a place like Angola where banks are not very much used to financing, the services industry. And, I've done certainly some work with Werner, going in and talking to some of the banks and looking at ways to help. So there's certainly there are opportunities. Are more prone nowadays to look at these opportunities rather than they were before, because they also start to look at the oil industry as an opportunity. Before they didn't look at least in Angola, they didn't look at the oil industry as an opportunity. Yeah.
If I to add, especially for the women that are here as part of the participants, I encourage you to, as well as you say, go to banks, but go to banks like AFDB, and the chamber can help you with that. There are initiatives there for women-run businesses. And I'm saying that from my own experience. Go to trade commissioners, trade commission like the US Embassy. Talk to them. There are sources of funds that are not just your traditional, but there's the funds that are there specifically that are geared for women companies. So somebody like Bill with 10-year in the oil and gas experience, if you come in and partner with me in Kenya, believe you, we could be quite a force. Again, like I said, people like Werner are very handy and very useful and have been able to also guide me, and I'm talking as an individual, to guide me into areas I need to go to look for this funding. And it's very tough, I have to say, extremely tough. Thank you.
Brilliant. Obviously, this hasn't been explicitly mentioned, but everybody that is chapter president for the African Energy Chamber also runs their own businesses in the energy sector. So you're speaking to people who, much like you in the audience, also face those same issues. and tackle them head on. And why we've come together as the African Energy Chamber is because we believe that there is strength in numbers. We believe that we need to have a coordinated voice and coordinated action to make sure that some of those policy issues, some of those investment issues are tackled head on and tackled effectively. Thank you, all of you panelists, for answering that. That was brilliant. Next question. This is a project that's been in the news quite a lot recently, obviously. This is a question from Barry Morgan, and his question is, Total's success in sourcing finance for Mozambique belies the fact that funding for African oil and gas / EP will come under siege as the months unfold. How and where can Africa look to bankroll oil, EMP, and the gas fueled growth ambitions? And that will go to anyone on the panelists. I think you're all very knowledgeable to be able to answer that question. Elizabeth, would you like to have first stab? Okay, NJ.
I think Africa E&P is going to see a lot of heat when it comes to bankrolling E&P projects. I think Total has been, you call it, one of the biggest beneficiaries of COVID-19. You got to give them credit for the ability to close projects. They have, on top of my head, they've been able to, or very close to completing the deal in Uganda, Mozambique, but also you need to have some deep pockets in being able to take on some of the deep water projects in Angola, in Equatorial Guinea, in Gabon, and even in Senegal, that are currently suffering. With the current era where you're seeing transition and a big push against the fossil fuel industry, you are really going to see a tough market when it comes into financing really some of the complex African projects. We cannot deny that, and we have to also build an industry that is being driven towards that. But also, I think it is time for us to start, this is where you spread your wings and you find ways to work with Leoncios and the economic knowledge and the Verners of the world to say, how do we get Africa competitive again? And how do we get Africa to really attract those investments? Look at what even small guys like Guyana are doing to make those fiscal terms competitive. And you make those fiscal at the same time, so you can still create a bigger tax base within the country. But don't look at oil companies as the problem when you're looking at the fiscality of issues, because and the sanity of contracts, which an ability to approve deals that are being done very fast, it attracts investment because capital needs to be patient at this time. I always talk about Kenya discovered oil the same time with Ghana, Uganda discovered the same time with Ghana on Jubilee. Ghana started producing 3 years later. Uganda and do. No capital is going to get out there. No capital investor is going to get out there and wait 15 years after a discovery to develop that. So we got to go into regulations and create regulations that create an enabling environment to do business. When you do that, it translates from the IOCs to the local companies as well, because right now with African local companies, I'm talking about financings, they are going to be competitive, finding new ways to see financings to really drive the industry. So if you do that, I think, in my opinion, I'm not really smart on this, in my opinion, it would really, really help for small businesses and even to take the big plunge into trying this, but it also gets the IOCs to say, I want to do this thing because I think it can work. But I think you get smarter guys like Leoncio with the economic background, they will be able to really advise this because I think it's something that they have dealt with a lot. They have been there with governments. They have seen it on both sides. But again, that's my personal opinion from being in the industry and really talking to the industry and see where others are going.
Yes, Samantha, if I may.
Yes, of course, please go ahead, Leoncio.
Yes, I mean, it's very important that we keep Africa attractive. How do we do that? I think we're now facing a crisis that we have never seen before. The COVID-19 era is going to change Africa and world forever. In Africa, we have to keep, really attracting investment. But how do we do that? We need to be and become more flexible, because Africa is competing with other regions in the world. We're competing with Asia, places like Guyana, North America, and Europe. So the more open we are and the more flexible we are, the more we will bring into Africa more investment. Last month here in my country, the Ministry of Petroleum, they pushed for a regulation that was going to review, the work program of oil and gas companies that's still in exploration period. I think they should go beyond that. We think that they should give more incentive even for companies that are in production, period. Because right now we are suffering, local companies and big IOCs. There is something that people need to understand. Local company is not the enemy of the big IOCs. No, because we need IOCs to actually perform. Because if the IOC goes bankrupt, we will disappear. And people need to understand that. So we must find a balance between what do we want in terms of local content and what can we get at this point with this crisis. So we need our politicians to understand that they need to be flexible in giving some incentive. And I think if you go back to our common sense agenda, you will see those key items there where we encourage and support that governments in Africa, they have to really be flexible. Maybe, it's better to expand the tax base than increasing taxes and without no one paying them. So what do you want to have taxes? I don't know which percentage if no one is paying. So you better go, to increase the tax base. So you have more people coming in, paying taxes. Even 1% of tax is something. But I think at this stage, people need to be flexible, and we need to really, push our government. And it's what we are doing at the chamber. We go bullish and we push government to really make sure that, they pass laws and, things that will really attract investment in Africa. We need some more flexible tax regime in Africa.
Thank you, Leoncio. That's definitely a very key message. Yes, of course, please, Elizabeth.
Log of climate change and financing for fossil fuel projects. I think when we look at this Mozambique Total financing, it shows you that there's still appetite out there for these projects. It's just really a matter of how we package it. And I think those of us who are involved in these projects go out to the market and say, yes, we have fossil fuel projects and we need to exploit these projects. We don't need to apologize about it. Let's just go after that money.
Thank you very much. And not just the money, but obviously all these projects create jobs. And that is definitely one of our key tenets here at the African Energy Chamber. I am so sorry that we have already run out of time. We have been inundated with questions, participation. We've had well over into the hundreds of participants. So as you can imagine, it's very concentrated to condense all that into 60 minutes. As Mandisa said in the chat section, any questions that have not been answered, we will endeavor to pick up and reply to you individually via email, or if I can find you on social media, then I will try that as well. We do have plans to hold other sessions where it will be a similar format as this, open forum, brief introductions about who we are, what we do, and then open question and answer session, because we believe that this is the best way for us to get to know you guys, and this is the best way for us to progress the conversations. And they are very valuable conversations. So thank you so much for your participation. We do look forward to seeing you at our next session. Please don't feel disheartened if we've not been around to answering your question. Like I said, we've had well over 100 people participating and many questions to divvy up. So obviously we're very ambitious, perhaps a bit too ambitious. That's
and
it
join
from
the chamber.
And join the chamber, absolutely. We want to see you on board. We want to hear more from you, and we want to collaborate with all of you. Thank you so much to the panel. If you've got any parting words, I will hand over first to NJ, and then in the same order as we did introductions, Leoncio, Sergio, Werner, and Liz. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everybody for being here. I think our time is now as Africans and as people who believe in this industry. I think, you know, one of the times we're going through a times of change, and I get struck by when I read when Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes, and one of the greatest men that ever said, the arc of a moral universe bends towards justice. That arc of that moral universe bends towards justice. The same can be said of our continent. If we want our continent to be what we expect it to be, it's going to be towards justice. But it doesn't bend by itself. It is people that make it bend. It is people that shape. Africa is going to be what we want it to be. And are we going to get justice? We're going to get energy. We're going to get economic empowerment for our people and even those that invest here. But they are not going to make that. It is us. This struggle to really drive our continent and make us be who we want to be and shape a continent that is going to be like what we all dream about. It starts with us. It starts with us eradicating that mentality of that self-bigotry, low expectation, that we need to expect low of ourselves, and that we need to expect low of other Africans, and we need to expect low of our industry. That ability, that misunderstanding that we can run better companies. You can reach to the chamber, and the chamber can say, we are going to create so much opportunities for you. But those opportunities don't mean a damn thing if you don't run a better company, if you don't pay your employees, if you don't pay your bills, you don't file your taxes, and you don't really take on those opportunities. You're not going to blame some white person for not being able to perform on a contract that you get. That's nonsense. We need to be responsible. And that sense of personal responsibility does match. It is not a foreign idea. It is an African idea. And let us embrace that as Africans. And let us drive that. And let's make local content and women empowerment in our industry real. So when we get lectures from somebody else that comes and talk to us about climate change on local content and women empowerment, we have to make it as African. My mama always said, no decent man deserves a woman if you can't treat a woman well. And that should be the same in our energy industry. So thank you so much. Join us, join the chamber, and yes, feel free to criticize me for having a book up or something that you don't like, but that's exactly what this has to be. But it is going to be fun. I like the fun ride of the chamber. I like that train. And you know, it starts with you. If a kid like me could build something really, really magnificent from nothing, I think most of you out there are way smarter, way better to do something bigger. Go big. Don't let nobody hold you back. Go big. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. We'll see you all very, very soon. Stay in touch. Mandisa shared in the chat section all of our social media. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. You've got the link also for where this video can be found on our YouTube channel. There's various hashtags. All of us on social media, very active. Like NJ said, we want to hear from you. So be in touch. Even if it's to criticize our Trump books, it's all fine. We're working together. It's a work in progress. Okay, have a lovely Friday, everybody. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Bye-bye.
Thank you.